Hey, what's up, guys? Coach Mac, Play Fast Football. All right, I got a comment from one of our subscribers who's looking at a video and wants to know what I think, in my opinion, is the difference between what we call our frontside veer, our veer play, our veer read play, and what inside zone would be and what the differences are. So I'm going to go through, in my opinion, what I think the differences are in those two plays and why we carry one, not the other, and why we might be going back to one from the other. All right, remember to check out our sponsors. Okay, GameStrat, which in the description box below, I will leave a link. It takes you directly to GameStrat's website. GameStrat is a sideline replay system we use. All right, if you're looking for the #1 most reliable, most affordable sideline replay system on the market, then make sure you check out GameStrat. Great customer service. Great, it's a great product. We've used it the last 2 years. We absolutely love it, and they're good people. So I would make sure that I checked out GameStrat. If you're not happy with your sideline replay system, in the description box, click on the link, takes you right to GameStrat's website. The Difference USA, which is the ultimate striking machine, we have one in our weight room. I'm hoping to add a few more. We need to use them in the offseason to develop our offensive and defensive linemen, to get people to understand how to strike, where to put your hands, what to do with your elbows, what to do with your hips, how to be athletic, and how to bend, and how to come out of that bend, and how to be coiled and then come out of that coil, and how to explode. And so all the things that we need to do. The Difference USA, the ultimate striking machine, is going to allow you to do that without needing a partner, without needing someone holding a bag or needing somebody holding a med ball. You're going to use, all right, that ultimate striking machine. You're going to get kids to strike and punch and learn how to put their hands, where to put their hands, and learn how to strike with the palms of their hands, learn what to do with their fingers, learn what to do with their elbows. So you can get thousands of reps in your weight room, on the practice field, in the off season. You don't need a partner, you don't need a bag, so make sure you check out Difference USA. Just Play Football is digital software taking your program to the next level. It's the only diagram tool that I use if I'm going to speak at any clinics, or if I'm going to do webinars where I have to draw or diagram plays. Just Play Football is the only diagram tool I use, so make sure you check out Just Play Football. Defensive Coordinator 1, which is an in-game app allowing you to use live in-game data. Somebody upstairs is inputting the data into the game. They're inputting the hash marks and the plays and the formations and runs and passes and what they're getting, and they're inputting the calls that you made, and now you can take personnel groups and calls that you made against things that the offense has done, and you can take blitzes, pressures, coverages, fronts, stunts, line movements, whatever you want to look at, and you can now take that against what the other team is running, and you can make critical in-game adjustments based on live data, not actually rolling through and guessing and going, well, I thought I was getting this, I thought we were doing more of this. You now know exactly what you're doing, exactly what they're doing. You can make critical in-game adjustments based off that live data that you are putting into the app during the game. So make sure you check out Defensive Coordinator 1. And then Dome Hats is a major sponsor of Play Fast Football. This is one of our Dome hats right here. All right, custom hats. All right, quality hats, beanies, visors. They have an online hat builder that is absolutely awesome. You can change the different panels and hats, put different colors, create your own hat. All right, you can put your logo in there. You can have words written on the side or words written on the back. So make sure you check out Dome Hats if you are looking into hats for fundraisers, hats for building your brand, whatever it may be. Everybody uses hats. All right, they're trying to get into every sport, every state, and get on every staff. So make sure you check out, go online. You can go to www.domeheadwear.co. Check out their products, check out their online hat builder. They will also be a major sponsor at our first clinic, January 24th, 25th, 26th, 2020, in about 3 months from now, St. Augustine, Florida. Dome will be one of our major sponsors, so make sure you check out Dome Hats. So if you follow our website, you'll know that over the last couple of years, we have been what I call a veer scheme, all right, similar to what I would consider similar to when you hear Coach McNally talk about their duo scheme. I know I've gotten flack before from people that say what we're doing is not the duo scheme. It is very similar in nature. We are a gap down team. We are trying to create double teams at the point of attack. We don't play with a tight end, so it's not like versus an under front, you would get a double team on a 5 and a double team on an A shade. We play with no tight end, so if we run it at a 3 technique, we get a double on a 3, a double on a 1, and we're trying to get, all right, 2 double teams at least one front side point of attack, one backside, all right, to create those double teams so that we have less negative plays. All right, it's a little bit easier on our offensive linemen than maybe the technique of the zone play. All right, but the reason we're using it is we're trying to get less negatives. We're trying to get more downhill movement. All right, and I think at the time, thought it was a little bit easier, all right, than teaching kids zone schemes. All right, so for us, it is a front side play. So here's going to be really what the differences are. All right, first thing that you got to understand, all right, is essentially veer left and zone right are basically the same play in theory. Why do I say that? We're going to leave somebody unblocked, all right, on the left side of the play. On the veer play, you leave somebody unblocked front side. On the zone play, you're leaving somebody unblocked, all right, on the back side. So before everybody gets bent out of shape and tells me that they're two completely different things, I get it that they're two different plays, but in theory, all right, theoretically, it's the same deal because I am going to leave somebody unblocked and I'm going to work on blocking the other five, or what I think are the most dangerous other five defenders. I'm going to read somebody with the QB, or I would split zone, all right, or kick somebody with a H-back sniffer type body. All right, so it's the same thing. So my theory of the gap veer duo scheme to the left and the zone play to the right, all right, I know they're different techniques, I know they're different entry points, and I'm going to get into all that, but in theory, theoretically, it's the same type play, okay? So what you have to look at, all right, is really the leverage of the blocks, okay, the entry point of the back, and really the techniques involved are what, for the most part, make the two plays so different. You could argue a lot of other things that make the plays different. When I say we're running veer, we're not running split back veer. We're not running off of inside leg of the play side guard. For us, our veer is more of a midline entry track. We are actually inside leg, all right, or play side leg of the center. So we have a tight A-gap entry point there. When we run ours, that's how we run it. Doesn't make it right. That's what we do. Okay, when I say veer scheme, I mean we are running a gap down scheme. All right, so we are blocking gap down, all right, double team, gap down, double team, all right, on out on the 5 technique. And we're trying to get double teams, and we're trying to use, all right, those double teams to create movement to get to a linebacker. And then one of the big differences is the leverage of the blocks that are created. The running back has to create the leverage of the blocks off of the entry point of that play side inside linebacker. Okay, so if that play side inside linebacker is fitting downhill in the A-gap, that's going to force your guard to come off. All right, so when your guard comes off, that's going to force the 3 technique inside of your tackle because you're not working a shuffle overtake technique like you would on a zone play. You're not overtaking a 3 technique, you're doubling and moving. So now, if this backer comes down front side A-gap and the guard comes off, now the tackle's left there, this ball has to go back behind it. All right, and that's one of the reasons we enter in the A-gap is so that if our splits are correct and the 5 technique is here, when this ball enters behind that 3 technique, it has a chance, all right, depending on what the 5 technique is doing. If the 5 technique was a sit player or an upfield player and the quarterback gives the ball, it should have a chance to go back behind the 3 technique depending on how far we've displaced the 3 technique. All right, so that's one of the major differences. You're not reading the first down lineman, all right, past the play side, or we're not reading the first down lineman on the play side. We're not reading that 3 technique. We're reading the inside backer to create the leverage for our offensive line. All right, the entry point of the back is different. Normally the entry point of a zone play would be somewhere, all right, and I know it's different for everybody that runs it, but the entry point on a zone play, all right, would be somewhere to the front side, all right, of that zone play. Even though most of your tight zones are going to roll back and hit in very much a similar place as the veer play, all right, the entry point is going to be a little bit different. The point that we're pressing is going to be a little bit different, and then the linebacker reactions and what we're doing will probably be a little bit different. And then the techniques up front that you're using are going to be a little bit different. So to the 3 technique, we are physically doubling that 3 technique. We're trying to get vertical movement on that double technique. All right? Where that backer comes down, whether he runs over the top or comes down, is going to dictate which of our linemen come off. If we can get foot to foot, hip to hip with no air between that double team and put that in the linebacker's lap, that would be the best case scenario. Then when the backer comes off, all right, it's probably easier to show you versus a 6-man box, but the backer will then dictate the cut of the back, and the backer will then dictate who comes off and where the leverage is going to be. All right, so again, if you're running it, all right, and you've got a Mike there and a Will there. So if you're doubling that 3 technique here, and you're doubling it to the Mike linebacker, and you're doubling the 1 to the Will linebacker, and you're base blocking the 5 technique, where the Mike linebacker fits will dictate which of the linemen come off. Obviously, which of the linemen come off, all right, now dictates the leverage of the football. So if we press the front side leg of the center here, and this Mike linebacker stays backside for whatever the reason, all right, maybe it's a chase replace or a chase straight, whatever it may be. If he stays backside, if the tailback gets this football, that football must stay in that front side A-gap, all right, and then the next thing he would look to, similar to zone theories, is he would then look to what's going on back there after his first cut. But it must stay front side in that A-gap, and the reason why is because if the tackle comes off on the Mike, the leverage that the guard has is going to be inside out on the 3 technique. All right, as long as the 3 technique didn't spike across his face. We're not talking about line game stunts or moving. We're just talking about the base double. We start to move, the Mike runs, so now the tackle comes off. That means the hat placement and the leverage of the guard are now inside the 3 technique. So all things considered, if he keeps that hat placement and leverage, the ball must knife inside. Now, if that backer fit it different and plugged this A-gap right here, that's going to make my guard come off. It's going to make my tackle now stuck with outside leverage on the 3 technique. The ball's got to go back that way. Okay? The ball's got to go back that way. Now, one of the main differences with the Veer play that we try to tell the back is the ball should never go, okay? The ball should never go all the way out the back door because of the angles we are blocking people on. If we are down blocking people back with those angles, you don't want to take the ball into those down blocks, okay? Whereas, all right, when you get into your zone theory, normally you're going to teach the back that it can, all right, bang, it can bend, it can bounce. Well, that's because of the techniques involved by the linemen and the types of techniques that they're using will allow that ball to possibly go 3 different ways. When you're running a Veer scheme, because of the techniques that are being used, the ball either bangs, okay? The ball either bangs or it bends back, all right? Oh, you know, and I've argued this with people as well. Is that a bend back or is that a bounce outside? Technically, this is play side, correct? So technically, in his own theory, if this was the play side and this ball went out here, that would actually be a bounce. So I've had the argument with people where I say, hey, the Veer play can only bend, all right? I'm sorry, the Veer play can only bang or bounce. It can never bend. All right? And then I've had other people that have told me, well, coach, if he goes back behind the 3 technique and he rolls back, that's a bend. So you can argue it either way, as long as you're talking to somebody and you're talking about the same thing. As long as we know that the tailback can go here or here, whether or not you want to call that a bend or a bounce to me is kind of irrelevant. All right. If we know that the ball can only go creased to there, all right, you can call it bend back, you can call it bounce front side, you can call it whatever you want. All right, it's kind of irrelevant. The ball should never go, and what we try to teach the backs is the ball really should never go there, and if it goes there, you better gain 5 or more yards, kind of like Alex Gibbs when he talks about tight zone. If that back reads it wrong but gets 5 yards, don't say a word. All right, if he reads it wrong and he doesn't get 5 yards, you better coach his ass like you coach everybody else. So if this back goes back here where you don't want the ball but he gains 5 or more, all right, maybe you don't say anything to him. But that's really not where you want the ball going because of the technique that you're using and the angles and the leverage that you are using to block those players. Okay, now, if you were running an inside zone scheme, your techniques would change a little bit, your landmarks would change, your entry point would change. All right, so what would end up occurring now, all right, is if you still had the 3 technique backside, now when you run the inside zone, your entry point's going to be probably more front side, running away from the unblocked 5 technique, and that's another reason people like the zone more than they like the veer. They don't like the front side tight entry to an unblocked 5 technique. Because if it does go behind the 3 technique, they think you're bringing yourself closer to the 5 technique. That's a logical argument. Okay, I think your splits have to be able to handle some of those deals. All right, but the entry point of the zone is now working away from the unblocked 5 technique. You can watch 1,000 zone videos. You might see 1,000 different entry points. Butt of the center, front side leg of the center, front side leg of the guard. All right, again, everybody does it the way that they want to. Everybody does it what they think is best for them. And everybody does it. The ones that, you know, the Alex Gibbs of the world and the Howard Mudds of the world and the NFL line coaches that make, you know, a lot of money coaching just O-line in the NFL, they've studied a million times so that they know the path of the back married to the landmark and the technique of the lineman is of the utmost importance. So I always, you know, you kind of lean towards what they do. But at the end of the day, when you're coaching in high school, you don't have those players. You don't have, all right, all those tools necessary sometimes to run it. You got to run what's best for you. So that normally the inside zone track would be somewhere, all right, butt of the center to maybe, all right, that front side leg of the center, front side leg, inside leg of the guard. But what it means is the zone right is going to enter, all right, or at least aim on the right side, all right, as opposed to the veer left is going to enter, all right, or at least aim on the left side. Now, if you watch any tight zone videos or you watch Alex Gibbs or you watch the NFL guy, they're always going to talk about how the tight zone is a rollback play. It's always a rollback play. It always ends up being a rollback play. So they actually teach the backside guys that they're more point of attack than the front side guys. So you'll hear that argument if you listen to Alex Gibbs or you study, all right, those videos. So if you watch anything that Coach McNally used to teach on the backside with a 3 technique, all right, on the backside with a 3 technique, the guard would be given that heavy forearm trying to lift and get under the 3. And the tackle would actually be kind of shuffling to stay square to overtake the 3. So instead of it being a double team, it now becomes a, all right, hard forearm shiver, the old forearm Crowther technique, getting up under with the guard, and then the tackle becomes more of a shuffle square and then a hands player because he's trying to overtake the 3 technique. So on the backside, the slight difference in the zone theory would be, all right, on that 3 technique, and there's a lot of guys that do it a lot of different ways. I'm not saying that Coach McNally, who's a great O-line coach, I'm not saying that his is the only way, but he's saying that this would be a forearm into a shuffle tail protector type mentality to try and get that overtaken so when the guard gets up there, we can try and get this, all right, overtaken so that when we start working, now on the front side to a shade, here's going to be the biggest deal is, are you working him out with the 5 and up to the mic, or are you working a combination with the center and up to the mic? Neither here nor there. You can do it however you want. Now on the zone play though, all right, now what we understand is now we are attacking more to the front side of the play, all right, because it's going to the right, whereas the veer would attack still the front side because the veer play would be left. So now our aiming point, our entry point is across, okay, and now we're probably reading that first down lineman to that play side to see if that thing is going to go there, or the rollback that the NFL guys talk about going outside the back door. All right, going out all the way outside the back door there. Okay, so now the techniques are going to change a little bit. All right, so again, if this was a full zone scheme on the front side, if we were running a veer scheme to the right, we would have a double team here. Or even if we were running our veer scheme to the left, we would have a double team here. That's how we would block it. Well, in a zone scheme, you may choose to zone the nose by yourself and work the combination with the 5 technique up to the Mike linebacker. And now the center knows that he's by himself. All right, he's got to try not to let the nose cross because he doesn't have help. But now when you're reading that, if the nose were to cross, the ball knows All right, and the ball carrier knows to hit it right up inside that first play side lineman because that's what he's reading. Okay? So now, what ends up happening on the zone play, in theory, even though a lot of people are teaching it differently and there are more double teams and takeovers, in theory, originally the zone play meant to be something where you could get things overtaken on the backside, so that now if the ball did cut back, the tackle overtook and had leverage, the guard was working leverage there, and then based on what the nose did, the leverage of the play was right there because everybody had their blocks leveraged. Over time, I think what you started seeing happening was how hard it was to get some of these things overtaken on the backside. So even though you were working to get scoops, tail protectors, overtakes, a lot of times these balls that came out the back door went all the way back, all right, behind the three technique or somebody else, because a lot of times what you were hoping to get more of was lateral displacement and not as much, all right, vertical displacement. Now, that's one of the reasons that I am thinking about going back to zone theories, because I think if they're taught correctly, I think zone football, to me, personally, I think zone is harder for an O-lineman to teach than gap theories. But I think gap theories involve more physical players that have to be able to move people, or you don't have running lanes. In zone theory, I think it's to be a good zone football team, I think you need a really, really good O-line coach, and I think you need some really good O-linemen to understand all the different combinations and all the different steps and techniques. And when you watch a really good line coach and they talk about inside zone, tight zone, or wide zone, and they get into the 9 million scenarios, it's a lot. All right, it's a lot. All right, and I don't think there's as much involved in a gap scheme. But in a gap scheme, you got to get movement, movement, movement. I think in a zone play, if you have really good backs, I think all you need to do is get the line kind of body on body moving left and right, and then you'll create some natural running lanes for your running backs off of that. Okay, so basically the question asked was you know, how do I think my veer and zone is different? Hopefully I answered that question for you. I will tell you this much, like inside of the RPO game, we do all the same things. All right, so when we run our veer play, all right, we can split zone kick it, we can insert it with a, all right, we can wham or trap it. Those are all the same things. If I ran a zone, if I was a zone scheme and I wanted to RPO, I would do the same thing. I would split zone it and RPO it. I would ISO or insert it and RPO it. And I would wham it. I would do all the same things. The difference is these things are all happening front side and these things are all happening backside. So as far as the teaching's concerned, it's different from my receivers because the RPOs and the access throws are happening on different sides. So the front side here is where all the RPOs are happening, and the back side is where the access is happening. Well, here the back side is where the RPOs are happening, all right, and the front side is where the access throws are happening, because even though this is still a play that you are reading someone, all right, but the difference is on the zone play, you're reading somebody who's on the back side, and on the veer play, you're reading somebody who's on the front side in general. Okay, you can cross-read and you can mess with a guy here but be reading something over there. In general, the back side of zone is where RPOs and screens and things happen. Front side of veer is where RPOs and screens and things happen, and vice versa for the access throws. Okay, so our veer scheme was carried, all right, as an answer to zone read. The reason it was carried is I thought there were less negatives. I've done both. I thought for us we had less negatives when we ran the gap scheme or the veer scheme. I thought we had less tackles in the backfield, less tackles for loss than we did when we ran a zone scheme. All right, but now hindsight being 2020, I'm leaning back to going to tight zone because I think we create more running room, all right, or at least the schematics of it with good running backs. I think there's more running lanes and running room in the zone play than there are in the gap play. Okay, and the reason I say that is I think to be a veer gap scheme, I think you need to kind of maul a little bit more up front. To beat a zone scheme with a good offensive line coach, I think you need to kind of get in the way. All right, now if you don't have linemen that can physically get on people and move them left, right, north, south, you're probably not going to win anyways. But I think, in my opinion, again, strictly my opinion, if you're running zone and you can get some left, right, east, west lateral movement, I think a good gutsy lineman with good technique that can get a guy to move and a good tailback will create more running lanes than forcing it at a double team or something that requires you to get a lot of movement, okay? So, the leverage of the play in the blocks, the entry point, running away from, if you're trying to run a zone kick play, all right, again, what guys will argue to you is if you're running like we do and you're running a veer kick play where you're running this front side veer play and you're kicking, all right, and there's the end, and whatever the front may be, people are going to argue that a good defensive end that he's going to wrong arm or dent this play in here brings, all right, it tighter to the entry point of the veer play, whereas on the zone split flow, now when the back is entering there, you're bringing yourself further from the 5 technique spill, okay? I get that. I understand that argument. Totally agree with the theories involved with the entry point being here and the entry point being there, okay? I think the splits can help you with that. I think you can still run veer kick with proper splits if your linemen know what's going on, but I'm not going to argue that running or entering further away from, all right, the kick out or the spill, all right, is a little bit better of a theory. All right, so in general, all right, in my opinion, I carry them for the same reasons. It's a way that I can read somebody and not block them. It's a way that I can tie in my RPOs and my 20 personnel game by going to split flow with a kick, all right, going to insert and ISO, going to wham and trapping an interior player. It's a way that we can get the fullback involved in RPOs with slices or getting them into the flat or pops and getting them vertical. So I carry it all for the same reason, not the same play. Reason, leverage, entry point, techniques involved really in general are, in my opinion, what make the two plays different. You can, again, I'm going to have people that are going to argue several different things. They're going to bring up comments and say what they think is right and what they think I said is wrong. That's fine. That's why we have these discussions. That's why there are channels like this. I'm just giving you my opinion of why we carry one, not the other, why we're probably going to go back to the other one that we're not carrying now, and in my opinion, what makes them different. Leverage, entry point, the different techniques that you're teaching involved in the play. All right, make sure you check out our sponsors. Make sure you go to www.playfastfbclinic.com to check out the football clinic that's coming up in January 24th, 25th, 26th, the first ever PlayFast football clinic at the Embassy Suites in St. Augustine, Florida, right on the ocean. So if you're looking to get your off-season started, all right, get it started early with us, get it started on the ocean, get it started in Florida. If you're up north or Midwest and it's cold, get it started now with us. It's still 80 degrees today as we go to our last full practice of the season. Our last full practice of the season for us with our seniors, the last time they ever practice football is going to be 80 degrees. So if you're looking for something to do in January, get your off-season started out right with some great high school speakers on some great high school topics, check out www.playfastfbclinic.com. I appreciate you guys subscribing and watching. We're over 17,000 subscribers now, which is absolutely fantastic. I appreciate it. Click the notification so that you know when the next video comes out. As always, comment, positive, negative. I respond to every comment I get. The interaction makes us all better. Remember, you won't play well until you play fast. I'll see you guys next time.